as we approach this new moon, it's very likely you're going to feel a cosmic flush of ancestral memory and potentially sudden insights and downloads that are going to help you to heal old patterns and eventually create a life you love. What's up, beautiful? It's Lisa Roulette, and I'm here to help you heal, navigate your ascension journey, and create a life you love. Conscious Creators Bootcamp is now open, so if you want to check that out, make sure you do in the description of this video below. Today, we're talking about the Cancer new moon and what's really happening. This is a very special new moon because of two things. Number one, it's sandwiched in between two Capricorn full moons, which is not only rare, but these full moons that the Cancer new moon is sandwiched in between are empowering our intentions. Capricorn is that very tenacious energy, that very steadfast energy. So the intentions that we set under the Cancer new moon is really going to be empowered by that Capricorn energy to help us stay steadfast and really tenacious about bringing whatever we intend under the Cancer new moon into fruition. Now, the other reason this is such a special new moon is because it is smack dab in the middle of the Sirius gateway when Sirius is aligned with the sun. Sirius is also otherwise known as our spiritual sun. And when the sun and the spiritual sun align, the frequencies that shower the earth are very high vibrationally. So they pull up our consciousness, they expand the consciousness body, and they help us to receive information that oftentimes isn't always available. So we want to be working with this new moon energy very intentionally. Now, when you go to seed your intentions for manifestation under this new moon, it is largely going to be about home and family. But it's not just about the edifice that you live in. It's largely about this home, right? Inside of this home, what is happening under the shell, okay? Under the shell, there are so many things going on. There is the inner child, there is the shadow, there is the memories, but also there is the ancestral DNA, which carries ancestral memory and ancestral trauma and ancestral karma. So there is a very big ancestral theme going on under this new moon, and this gives us an opportunity to do a lot of clearing and integration work. Now, throughout the video, I'm going to give you 3 book recommendations. So make sure that you stay until the end because these are the kind of books that are definitely going to change your life. As we get into the theme of this new moon, you are going to feel that heightened vulnerability. So literally anything that you can read by Brene Brown, and I'll link my favorite in the description of the video below, would be really good at this time. The power of vulnerability is really, really key right now. And one of the quotes I want you to consider as we approach this new moon is, vulnerability is the birthplace of innovation, creativity, and change. So I want you to get your boundaries on. And if you haven't seen my video on energetic boundaries, I'll link it in the description below. It's a little bit cringe. All of my old videos are cringe. I'm planning on re-recording most of them. But in the meantime, just check out that video because we want to make sure that you're boundaried down enough to do that inner work under the shell so that when you come out of this new moon, you really are in that very healthy, high vibrational state of consciousness where you can perceive everything that you need to carry in your manifestations. Now, when you think of the archetypal energy of a crab, what do you think of? You think of that digging and clawing, and that's exactly what's happening here metaphorically. There is an excavation of ancestral memory, and with that comes the trauma, the drama, and all the things that essentially are written into your DNA. So the second book I really want to recommend is the book It Didn't Start With You. It's a really powerful book that proves we really do carry in memory from our ancestors through the rich cellular memory of our DNA. So you want to take a listen to that book. If you listen to it on Audible or you buy it on Amazon, take a listen to it because a lot of things are going to come through that sacral chakra and potentially through that third eye region, because this new moon I'm feeling is very high levels of downloads if you're going to let that ancestor memory come into the conscious mind. So the second thing that I want you to consider is the idea that the inner child and the shadow play a very big role here. Remember, excavating. We're excavating. If the inner child and the shadow are too loud, we're not available for the ancestral memory and the messages that come in with the memory. In addition, we're not available for channeling our ancestors and their messaging and the parenting that they can do. And we're going to talk about ancestral parenting in a minute. But before we do, if you want to know how I channel my ancestors, let me know in the comment section below, and I will put together a video for that. But when you're checking in with the inner child and the shadow, you want to particularly look at where 14 degrees, I think 23 minutes, falls in your natal chart. That house, wherever that falls in, is going to be very important for you to ask your inner child and your shadow intelligent questions. For instance, if it falls in your 5th house of pleasure, ask your inner child, well, how do you feel about pleasure? Are you scared of pleasure? Do you feel guilty about pleasure? Is pleasure a dirty word for you? What does pleasure mean to you? That's going to reveal a lot about what's buried in that subconscious. And it's going to reveal a lot of blocks in the subconscious that are preventing you from experiencing pleasure the way that you desire and deserve, which is very natural and very healthy, because your desires for pleasure you deserve it. The next thing you want to do is go into that shadow and ask the shadow, how are you experiencing pleasure? Is it masked by some wound? So your shadow experiencing pleasure through maybe some self-harming or self-loathing or things like addiction. If you don't already know what all the houses signify in astrology, let me know and I'll do a video on each of the houses so that you can get more in tune with your cosmic blueprint, which is what we call our natal astrology. That's really your soul's cosmic blueprint. And it really reveals a lot about what you are potentially here for and what you are potentially going to be challenged with in order to expand into the highest version of who you're meant to be. Now, one of the things to consider about this new moon is Venus's play, which of course is gorgeous, it's beautiful, it's sensual, it's feminine, it is the womb. So as you set those intentions, I really want you to do this visualization where you're literally putting the intention into the Venusian womb. Let the divine feminine cradle it, to nurture it, to grow it. Really feel into the sensuality and the tactile nature of what it is you're going to intend, whether that be money, a soulmate, a better body, whatever it is. You just really want to feel into that. You want to be able to see every little component of it growing inside of that Venusian womb and just douse it with the feminine energy that is in and around you. Of course, Saturn's at play too, and Saturn is going to be retrograde, which makes Saturn even slower, the slowest of slow. But that doesn't mean that your intention is meant to be manifest in a slow nature. What it really says is slow down and take the time, especially this time in between the Capricorn full moons, to understand what the goals are that are aligned with the intention, because without goals, it's really hard to manifest anything. Like I always say, people sometimes undervalue the idea of setting healing goals and setting goals for manifestation. We typically associate goals with career or fitness, but at the end of the day, you can set goals for anything. Goals become the framework that guide you to whatever you're intending. If you think about what your intention is, like a North Star, you want to think about, okay, well, what are the steps I need to take to get there? And then backtrack from each goal to decide, where do I start today? Saturn and Capricorn will reward you for slowing down and really considering what are the goals that I need to set around my manifestation. Now, let's talk about the ancestral parenting. So with this moon and the excavation of ancestral memory, ancestral trauma, ancestral karma, ancestral trauma, like all of it, like it's just going to be flooding. I've already started to feel it. With this, that flood of energy that's coming in, a lot of that is, there's wisdom in the wounds. There's wisdom in the karma. There's wisdom in the drama. There's wisdom in all of it. So you really want to tap into that energy. And one of the things I really encourage you to look at right now is any family patterns, regular things that your family does all the time that aren't necessarily very good things. So for instance, your family might struggle with money. You might go back and ask yourself, well, how did that start? Was it a grandparent or great-grandparent that always said money doesn't grow on trees, or they always said you had to work your fingers to the bone to make ends meet? That would be ancestral patterns and programming, okay? So I want you to really start thinking about those patterns and programming to arrive at what you've inherited. The other thing that can show is potentially addiction. Like if there's a lot of people in your family who struggle with alcoholism, an addiction to fitness, an addiction to food, those are things to look at as well. And this is really about family, meaning you should be coming together. You need to drop your defenses. You need to open that heart chakra and really come into a family setting. If you're bold enough and using the power of vulnerability to be in a family setting, ask your community, hey, this is what I see us struggling with. How can we approach this? How can we change it? How can we make significant behavioral changes in order to stop the buck here? Okay. Because the universe will reward you for not carrying the wounds, the trauma, the drama, and the karma into future lineages. And one way to do that is to ask your ancestors, channel that energy and ask them, where did it start? How did it happen? How can we break these patterns? There are a number of ways you can do it. And like I said, if you comment below, I will make a video on channeling your ancestors. But one way to do it, which is a really strong way to do it, is to, if they wrote any letters, if they have any journals, read that, see if there's any messages that you can decode. If you have pictures, if you can meditate on the pictures, maybe there are family stories that you can extract information from. All of that is part of the Akashic record. It is part of the memory of your genetic line, which don't ever take face value. Dig into it, integrate it, find something in there that you can extract as wisdom in order to really employ it as the change, as the thing that is going to end it here, end it now. Because that's when you do that, what's going to happen is you are going to be free to expand. You're going to be free to come out of that shell. You're going to have that heart chakra open. That aura is going to expand. You're going to start vibrating higher. You're going to start thinking better, more clear. Your beliefs are going to heal and you're going to feel so much better. But before we end the video, I have one more book recommendation for you, and here it is.